A pleasant, yes, let me say a pleasant good evening to Miss Karen Nunez to share. Pleasant good evening, ma'am.
Good evening to you.
Thank you so much for taking time out to link with us here on The Observer. It's always a pleasure to have you on, of course, and it's always good to hear your voice. All the
Thank
best for
you.
the season, of course. Last weekend, Hope, the new political party led by the political leader Timothy Hamill Smith, was launched. And the new party,
Correct.
of course, plans to tackle crime as one of its priorities. And of course, many of us understand the situation here. I mean, the volume of it as far as crime. When you hear all these stories, and I was talking to Dr. Munilal earlier, people in their own yard working out, having some recreation, just laying back. And you have people jumping the wall and opening the gate as though they live there. And senior citizens who are now soft targets in our society and just being taken advantage of. Hope, what can we expect? I mean, because we hear a lot of talk about
Okay,
crime.
well, I can give you, I think that's one of the main, in fact, I was speaking to my son who does not live here, lives abroad, and I was saying to him that I think the main reason that I feel confident that Hope is the right party is because all the things that you just itemized are symptoms of a problem. They are symptomatic of an issue. What you are not dealing with is what is the cause. It's as if you went to the doctor with a cold, but instead of him determining what is causing the cold, he then gives you two Panadol, tells you to go home, and tells you you'll get better. Of course, you won't get better. So what did Hope do? And that is why I'm very, very, very proud to be part of Hope. This is one of the things that persuaded me that they meant business. We know when Dana Sitahal died, in fact, Dana Sarup Sitahal was a very, many of you do not know that, but she was extremely, extremely close to my entire family. We won't go into that. But what I will say, that when she died, Mr. Brownfield, who at the time was the United States, I think he was the deputy responsible for narcotics, drugs, and combating illicit drugs. That was his portfolio. He said very clearly, I don't have the quotation in front of me, but he said very clearly that Dana Sitaha's murder was a result of an international drug organization operating in Trinidad and Tobago. The level of sophistication that was required to carry out what was a contract killing required that to be an organized crime. And I do not know that either any party, they talk about education, they talk about the fact that people's lack of values and all poverty, single family homes, they talk about all those things which are contributing factors. There's no question about that. What that does is makes you more vulnerable. Do you realize that you hardly hear about that in Toco, Point Fortin? Even Tobago has now started.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is in the rural communities, you hardly hear about crime. You know the cost of one, it was in the Guardian newspaper. They told you that a gun costs something like $9,000 to $15,000. Who of those persons who you see those TikTok videos can afford a gun for $15,000? And Timothy Hammersmith made no bones about it. When we launched the party on Saturday, he made it very, very clear, and he is speaking the truth, and the country knows that he is speaking the truth. I was in the cabinet, and I'm going to get myself in trouble,
Go
but
ahead.
I'm just going to say this, that what he said is this. He says that where are the drugs and the guns coming from? It's coming from outside. It's coming up from a mafia outside the cabinet. Where are the contracts that are being are granted? It's coming from a contracts outside of the mafia. This is what he says, that he has no other reason to believe that that is what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago.
And let me ask you this, Mr. Chair. All good and well, and a lot of these things that we talk about as far as policies and what have you, they look good on paper. But that public perception, and I think that has any politician or political party looked at this perception as average citizens would believe that, listen, there's a big fish. We don't think it's mythical. We don't think it's a fragment of our imagination.
Okay, so I'm going to answer very quickly. And you should have asked me what were the solutions.
Right.
The solution obviously is that, and he has talked about the ship rider agreement. You know that there's impacts for which we are a member. There are 12 members. The center is in the garrison in Barbados. They just got, I think it's 15,000 kilograms of cocaine, and they caught a number of the persons involved. I think, I don't think you're being realistic. I've been in politics long enough, I think. I don't think you're being realistic to say that you're going to go after the big fish. Because if the PR, and I don't mean any offense to anybody that was involved in the PRCO international issue or any other person whose names have been called, the fact of the matter is I don't think many of them have spent more than a week in jail, if that much, and certainly they have not been convicted for their crimes, and that is over 20 years. So what you do is you disrupt the trade. What you do is you make Trinidad and Tobago, which is we don't grow cocaine in this country. We do not manufacture guns in this country. We transship it. So what you have to do is disrupt the trade. How do you do it? Make it such that it makes no sense to come through Trinidad and Tobago, whether it's coming from Colombia or Venezuela or wherever it is coming from, because those are the two main countries that have been identified. Disrupt the trade so that now instead of having scanners that do not work, make sure you have scanners that can check out. The political leader said they can scan 150 scanners in 1 hour. Not only do you make sure that we buy them, but we manage them and we make sure they work. We have drones and we work with the United States. We work with Interpol. We are only 1.4 million people. The way to deal with it is to disrupt the drug trade. And once you disrupt the drug trade, whoever is behind it, from wherever it is in Latin America, they are going to find another route because they're going to say they're losing too much product. When they're losing too much product, they're going to decide we have to go elsewhere to carry out our trade. As simple as that.
And I understand that. And I say that makes a lot of sense, because once you hit them where it hurts the most, where as far as their profits, they will try to find alternative routes.
And they did, by the way, because in fact, I could just tell you on that matter, if you can go and look it up yourself, United States Narcotics, I can't remember the exact acronym, but what they said is that why they started using the Caribbean as a transshipment point is because they were successful in stopping the shipment of drugs through the Central America. They call it they use a terminology which I can't remember, but in other words, they were effective through the land to stop the drugs coming through. So we cannot do it alone. And what I am saying to you, the kind of drugs and guns, 80% of the murders are committed with unlicensed guns.
Yes, that's right.
We have over 1,000 gangs. Do you think the gangs come together to sing Kumbaya? The police tell you that they are involved in drugs and guns. So if drugs and guns are the main business, I'm not saying there are not other corollaries. There are other corollaries. And I am not also saying that poverty, all those things can make you more vulnerable and easier to recruit. But if 30 years ago, in those same communities, they had dude with more unemployment, less education, single parents, all the factors that you say are causing this today, why did you not hear about that in those days, except our dog bite? You know why?
Yeah.
Because the drugs and guns, whoever are controlling it, are outside of the community. And if we, in hope, that hope is serious. Hope is serious. The thing we are going to pass, and we have made a commitment to this. We have made the commitment. We are going to pass the law that deals with financing.
And you're saying that hope has that will, has that political will to actually put these things in place?
Because you know what, 100%. You know what? Also, we are going to pass is that law that deals with you financing campaign. The legislation is there.
All right.
It has to be
But one second. Well, let me just take a pin here because I don't want to lose train here. In the speech by your party general secretary, I believe it's Melissa Ragunanan Neamat, which I thought was very interesting. She says that the party also intends to make changes that will allow the president to be elected, have a fixed election date, salary cuts for members of parliament as deemed appropriate, and for the prime minister to serve a limit of 2 terms. Now, this is great. This is great.
All right.
But again,
and let me answer you very quickly on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Clearly, that will require a longer period of time because constitutional reform, you need a certain level of majority. But there are things that we can do immediately, and Hope has a 180-day plan. You cannot tell me that we cannot hire more staff for the DPP. You cannot tell me that under the DPP's office, which is constitutionally protected, I think by either section 111 or 112 of our constitution, that you cannot set up with under the DPP a special division dealing with white-collar crime, bring in a special prosecutor. I taught at the law school. There are hundreds of lawyers. This young lawyer who spoke on the Annalisa said there are lawyers who are driving taxis because they can't get jobs. You cannot tell me that we do not have the capacity to train these young people in money laundering and white-collar crime, set up a special unit working together. As they do in England, there's a special unit where they combine the investigative and the prosecutorial together. We can do that without having to pass a law because it will come under the auspices of the DPP, who under the Constitution, the politicians cannot intervene. I don't know if you remember with Jeffrey Henderson and a former Attorney General, when Jeffrey Henderson had to write a former Attorney General and tell him, sir, I take no instructions from you. I am constitutionally protected. So in 180 days, there's a lot that we can do. We can pass that legislation that requires the campaign financing. There we can meet and work with Interpol, with Impact in a way that our government has failed to do. Those are things that do not require the kinds of things that Melissa did speak about. But you see, those will happen. You know why it will happen? Because once the people have faith and confidence that you are not only talking the talk, but you're walking. Every single one of us, why have we put ourselves on that front line? Why has Timothy Hammersmith done that? There's no reason for him to do that.
And there's a love for country, and that's fine.
Not only love, you can't just love the country, you know. You can love the country, but there are 2 other things that absolutely necessary. You need to be results focused. You need to have. If I am going to interview you for a job, and you cannot show me what you achieved during your term, whatever period of time that you have been in the workforce. If you cannot show me that, and you just talk hot air, not only to have all of us, regardless of what one wants to say. We did not get a run on Republic Bank. We did not get a run on CLICO. There were many countries in this world that had to run to the IMF. With the global financial crisis, Trinidad and Tobago was not one of them.
And let me ask you this, because I know the
last point is,
go ahead quickly.
I have to say quickly, and we all have a background in spirituality and community service. You may not know this. I have a foundation. I don't like to speak about it.
Yes, I know about your foundation, yes. And good work. I must say, hats off to you and your foundation.
And I was waiting until Gulvey Medical, who has not paid me 1 black cent, to rename it in my husband's name. In my husband's name. Timothy Hammersmith does tremendous amount of work through the Living Waters community. Louis Lee Singh also. All of us have a history of community service and we are all results focused, and we are going to walk the walk, and that's what they're scared of.
And let me
They're
let me
scared
let me
of us,
ask you this. I know there would be some fear. You're right. There are people who are going to be
No, the
afraid of this.
government's scared of us. I'm telling you, the government's scared of
But
us.
let me ask you this. Now, all that you have said, and really and truly, it's all about a better Trinidad and Tobago. But
Correct.
none of it can
Yeah.
become a reality unless you're in there to implement
Exactly.
these changes. And so it brings me to the point where you have people who would weigh in. And what do you tell them when they weigh in and say, listen, Karen and her team don't have reserve positions in either the PNM or the UNC, and so they decided to simply set up something with the hope that they get, they get into a position into one of these parties. Now,
No,
please,
no, no.
answer me that.
I'm
Answer
answering
me
the
that.
question simply.
Good.
It's clearly we don't have much time to go into it. I made this. If Mr. Manning was there, I wasn't going to leave the PNM, okay? Because I wasn't going to leave. What has happened to the PNM, we're not going into it, but much of, I just have to know that I am not a good fit. I could not stay in good conscience. I could not be there. Timothy Amersmith could answer for himself for the UNC because he was part of that. And so can the other deputy political leader, Louis Lee Singh. We all have a level of disenchantment. We all believe in Trinidad and Tobago first. I am not prepared to put a party in front of my country. Timothy Amersmith is not prepared to put a party in front of his country. Neither is Louis Lee Singh, and neither is Steve Alvarez. So we all have a proven track record. Don't ever forget that. We have all proven ourselves, and we are forced to be reckoned with, and they know it. They know it. I have sat in Parliament, and we don't have to go through all of that. The point about it is that all of us, together and we expect the people, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, who say you want change. That's what they did a survey. Every major media house did it, and 100% was the results that people want change. We can get change, but we depend on you to believe in us.
And if the people, and as we've always been told, that the voice of the people is the voice of God, and if
I'm
the
not
voice,
sure about that one, eh?
you're not sure about that one, okay?
People say that, and it's sometimes people say, "But why they went and killed Jesus?" So
Yeah, I understand that.
one.
But if the voices are saying, listen, we need you in there.
Yes.
You need to unite. You
Yes.
need to implement all of these policies.
Yes.
You need to save Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
Will they be simply talking to deaf ears, or people who that will more than willing to make that a reality?
But if it is going to put food on your table, if it is going to make sure that your grandchild has a better opportunity for a better job, to become an entrepreneur, to earn a decent living, to have a sense of self-worth, if you're going to feel that my children could go out, or my grandchildren could go out at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night like they could be in the United States, and not be frightened that somebody going to be holding them up. If I could feel that the economy is doing well, that we are not only dependent on energy, but we're doing like Dubai, we're doing like Mauritius, we're doing like Singapore, we're doing like Jamaica. We understand we have to diversify, because we are capable, we have the capacity, because we have spent a lot of money, and I have to give a lot to Mr. Manning. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. Mr. Manning really was the one who drove that knowledge economy and did a lot in terms of educating us at a tertiary level, not only in academics, but in the vocational. We had a TTIFC that was, we had Lehman Brothers sign an MOU with us. We had a gentleman who had set up the Irish International Financial Center, working right in my office. In my office, drafting the legislation for the IFC. I visited Dubai twice using that model. So there's no question in my mind that given the chance, every Trinidadian and Tobagonian will be empowered, will be given the opportunity to realize his dream, and it will not be a case where a few people who have no, and this is the hard part, and this is the truthful part. I can't say too much, I don't want to get in trouble.
All right.
But let me just say this.
Quickly, go ahead.
Those who are benefiting the most is something called a Gini coefficient. When you try, which is from this Italian guy, and what he does is you look at the spread of the income in your country. They won't publish that since 1990. How can it be right, as people believe, that there are few people in this country that are probably enjoying about 70% of the wealth of this country, while the rest, the CPEP and URP, cannot buy a parrot on a stick? How could that ever be right? And we at Hope will make sure that comes to an end.
And I agree with you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I will call you again sometime in the very near future. Do have a wonderful season,
And you too,
a bright
Mikey.
year,
Thank
and it's
you.
been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Karen.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.